Good morning, everybody. We'll start with prayer. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Welcome members to the Chamber, welcome members who are online and staff in the Chamber and also online, and welcome David and James from KPMG as well. We'll start off with the Clore. The first thing is to confirm the minutes of the meeting of the Municipal District of Sligo, Drumcliff, held on the 11th of October. Proposer? Councillor Fox and Councillor Gilroy. Thank you. Item number 2, to confirm the minutes of the budget meeting of the Municipal District of Sligo Drumcliff held on the 1st of November. To Councillor Gilroy and Councillor Fox, thank you. Any matters arising from those? No. Okay. So item number 4, to consider the draft, revised and updated socio-economic statement at high-level goals for the new LECP process, Sligo 2030. And Dorothy, I'd let you introduce this. Thank you. Are you there, Dorothy? Or maybe it's Margaret, is it? I can't see right. You okay, Margaret? I think you might be on mute, Margaret.
Yes, sorry, what was the question there, please? Hello, can you hear me?
You there?
Yeah, Margaret, I can hear you, Margaret.
Oh, good morning. Can you hear me now?
Can indeed.
Okay. Well, James, we'll let you come in. Oh, there's Margaret now.
Good morning.
You're still on mute, Margaret. I don't know.
No, I can hear Margaret's.
It looks like I'm okay. It doesn't look like it's muted.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Margaret, there must be a problem. I'd say that they can't hear you in the council chamber by the looks of things.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah,
Is there any way around that, I wonder?
We can hear you, no problem, on the Teams.
Okay.
We'll just try and get the speakers working here.
Yeah.
Go ahead now, Margaret.
Okay, so can you hear me now?
No, still nothing.
Maybe is there something I can put into the chat? Would that help?
Can I ask, can you hear me in the chamber?
Oh, by the looks of things, not, James.
And what about David? David, can I hear you?
I think it's anybody on Teams at the minute, Margaret.
Let's see. Oh, that's a bit unfortunate, isn't it?
Yeah, they can't. I don't think they can hear any of us. I tried it earlier on.
And
there you are, Margaret. Great.
Oh, you hear me now, Marie?
We can hear you now. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, off you go.
Sorry, Marie, was there a particular question there?
No. I just thought you wanted to introduce KPMG.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, Marie. Thanks very much indeed. So good morning, everyone, and we're delighted to be here this morning with the Municipal District to present where we're at in relation to the Sligo 2030 project. Members will be aware from, I suppose, quite a bit of correspondence to date in terms of our public consultations, in terms of our previous presentations to a variety of committees, which I know David will outline now, and James and so on. So there's been quite an extensive piece of work taking place over the past 4 to 6 months in relation to Sligo 2030, which is the new LECP for Sligo. So we wanted to present to all of the MDs to make sure that the MDs had their opportunity to hear the process of where we're at so far. And We will be coming to the full council in due course, obviously when there's more work done on the project, but this is our opportunity to come to the MD today, and thanks for that opportunity, Chair, and everyone. So I'm not sure whether James or David might want to take off from here, but we have a presentation that KPMG will make, and I think that will fill members in relation to the project in terms of where we're at. And obviously, if there's any questions afterwards, we're happy to deal with those. Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, you coming in first, James? Thank you, Margaret.
No, just say thanks, Chair, and thanks, Margaret, for that. So my name is James Chilton, Associate Director in KPMG Future Analytics, and my colleague David is going to take you through a presentation to just outline where we're at in terms of the work that's been completed so far. So thanks very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Chair. Thanks, James. I'll just share my screen here. Hopefully everybody will be able to see it. Can everybody, let me just see. Can everybody see that? Hopefully.
That's fine, yeah, thank you.
Perfect. My name's David McGlinchey, and I'm a manager with KPMG Future Analytics. And as James said, I'm just here to give you a bit of an update on the progress to date and run you through some of the findings of the revised socio-economic statement. So before we get started, just a bit about us. So who we are. So KPMG Future Analytics. So we're a professional consultancy within the KPMG Deal Advisory Business Unit. We specialize in planning, research, and economics, and it's all underpinned by data analytics. We work with public and private sector clients, but also extensively with the European Commission on applied research projects, particularly in the areas of smart cities and urban resilience. We have a large multidisciplinary team with extensive experience in Ireland and overseas, and this includes planners, data analysts, researchers, strategists, and economists, and we can draw on the wider expertise from the wider KPMG network as well. We also have extensive experience working with county councils involving comprehensive stakeholder engagement and consultation. So just a bit about where we are in the process at the moment. So the first stage, we developed the baseline analysis and the draft socio-economic statement. This then went to public consultation. So the draft socio-economic statement was placed on the council website. And then we conducted thorough consultation and include surveys, interviews, and focus groups, and we'll go into that a bit more as we go through the presentation. Following that, we then revised and expanded the socio-economic statement and completed the socio-economic analysis. And now we're moving towards the development of the objectives, actions, and outcomes. Once this is agreed, we'll move to finalize the strategy before it's adopted, implemented with ongoing monitoring. Just about the draft statement itself. So what the objective of the draft statement was. So the objective of the draft statement was to provide the public with the opportunity to have their say on the development of the new Sligo 2030 plan. Covered a number of different areas, including a summary profile of Sligo, so that's a socio-economic profile of Sligo, a SCOT analysis, so that's strengths, constraints, opportunities, and threats, guiding principles and areas of ambition, and then a draft version, or vision, I should say, and draft emerging high-level goals. As mentioned then, the draft document was placed on the Sligo County Council website for written feedback from the public over the course of 4 weeks. And on the right there, you can see how we actually developed the statement itself. So the first stage was establishing the context. So that's looking at those local, regional, and national strategies and policies that will underpin the entire strategy. We then moved to do a baseline analysis and profile, so the socio-economic side of things for Sligo County and Town. From that, then we were able to develop the SCOT analysis, so identifying those strengths, constraints, opportunities, and threats. And then all of this adds into the development of guiding principles and the draft vision and high-level goals themselves. And we'll go into a bit more detail as we go through. Just a bit about the consultation. So as we said there, the draft socio-economic statement went for, on the council website for written submissions. We actually got 63 submissions from the public. We also had 2 online surveys, one for the business and one for the community. And we had 47 responses on the business survey and 171 responses on the community survey. We also held a public webinar to introduce the whole project and also highlight the emerging high-level goals. And this was then also used to let the public know how they could interact with the whole process and engage. We then held 5 focus groups over the course of the 7th and 8th of July, and we got a lot of very good information from those focus groups. Again, that was feeding into the SCOT analysis, feeding into the high-level goals, areas that people thought should be addressed. And then we completed 22 stakeholder interviews again over the course of June and July of this year. So looking at the revised socio-economic statement, so taking into account all that feedback that we received during the consultation process, and the analysis subsequently completed. What does it now include? So it includes a full review of the policy context that will underpin the Sligo 2030 plan. The socioeconomic profile has been expanded and now has information in areas such as population, housing and education, economy and employment, tourism, spatial context, transport and infrastructure, community well-being, environment and climate change. The SCOT analysis was updated and expanded and broken into themes. Summary findings of the consultation process by key themes, including concerns raised around COVID-19 and Brexit, housing, climate change and transport are now included, and the aggregated results of the responses to both the community and the business surveys are included as an appendix. There's also a needs analysis identifying key areas for Sligo to address as it moves towards 2030. And again, I'll go into a bit more detail on that as we go through the presentation. And then finally, there was a revised draft vision and draft high-level goals, along with revised high-level guiding principles and areas of ambition, again taking into account the findings from the consultation. So just a bit about the key findings themselves, and I've just picked out a few here to highlight some of the points that you'll find in the document, but there's a lot more in the document itself. So on population, Sligo is growing, but at a slower pace than in previous periods. So at 0.2% growth between 2011 and 2016 is the slowest rate recorded since the 1991 census. 16% of County Sligo's population are over the age of 65, which again is higher than the state average of 13%. And in Sligo town, people aged 20 to 29 are the largest cohort, yet there was a decrease of 19.9% in this group in the last census. So that could be pointing to somewhat of a brain drain or something like that happening. On household characteristics and deprivation, 28% of County Sligo's population live alone, which is higher than the state average of 23%. So you can see a key point coming out of there, potentially looking at rural isolation, the elderly, and that sort of thing. The number of households registered on the Housing Assistance Payment Scheme has increased 300% from 2016 to 2019. And then to meet housing demand between 2020 to 2031, Sligo will need to increase the annual average number of new housing coming into supply from 139 to 468 units. So that's a 236% increase. There's a lot of work there to be done. It's, very ambitious targets. On education, training and skills development, education was really one of the key strengths that was identified. So 47.7% of residents in Sligo aged 15 years and older hold some form of third level qualification. Education outcomes are improving across the county, with a decline in those attaining solely primary or secondary education. And then there's significant increases in those attaining master's or high level degrees, both for males and females. On economic activity and employment, the top 3 industries for employment were professional services, commerce and trade, and manufacturing. This is a very important point on the commercial vacancy. There is a high commercial vacancy rate in Sligo, 19.9% in the final quarter of 2020. From 2011 to 2016, Sligo's employment grew by just 2.2%, which is significantly below the national growth figure of 11%, and actually the lowest in the country. And then when you look at Indigenous internationally exporting companies, so those EI supported companies, Sligo is underperforming in comparison to other counties in the region. So that's something to look at when we're looking, to achieve some of the goals that will be set out later in the presentation. So looking at the SCOT and the strengths, so some of the strengths identified, and then again, there are a lot more in the document itself. So Sligo is a designated regional growth centre with access via road, rail and air, has strong educational attainment, as we've seen, and educational infrastructure with the new technological university. It's an attractive FDI location, and it does have a very good business community. There's outstanding culture, heritage and natural environment. And then another key strength that was identified is the community itself and the various volunteer groups that contribute and play such an important role across Sligo. On the constraints, that high commercial vacancy rate is something that needs to be addressed. The environmental impact of high rate of car use for travelling to and from work and education, and the brain drain with large numbers of young people leaving Sligo, and then the low employment growth in comparison to neighbouring counties. On the opportunities, there's the opportunity there for the new integrated whole county approach to promote and develop Sligo under the Sligo.ie campaign. There's potential to become a leading smart and green county in Ireland, potential to attract further FDI and increase the number of homegrown companies. And then there's an opportunity there to repurpose vacant or derelict buildings as innovation centres, venues for the arts and recreational spaces. On the threats, failure to secure buy-in from key stakeholders, both public and private, for the Sligo 2030 plans, obviously key threat moving forward to 2030. Continued effects of Brexit and COVID-19 on trade and tourism. Failure to adequately embrace technological change could lead to a decrease in competitiveness and losing out on FDI. And then climate change obviously will have a significant impact on Sligo, including on the private sector and wider community. Then if I give you a brief overview of the needs analysis, we identified 7 key needs. These were the housing, and again, you should be able to see this coming out of the socio-economic analysis and the key findings that we just went through. So the housing, so addressing the provision of housing and the lack of available private residential developments in Sligo to meet current and future demands. So obviously this is vital, for the current community, but also for achieving population targets and attracting investment. Similarly, the economy, to meet growth and population targets, there needs to be a significant increase in job creation and employment. And I said that's not just about attracting more FDI to the county. It's also about developing those homegrown enterprises, those EI supported companies that that are internationally oriented. On transport, it's all about increasing mobility and accessibility in and around Sligo. So let's continue to upgrades to hard infrastructure such as the road network, increased connections with Ireland West Airport, but also upgrades to active and sustainable infrastructure, which was something that came through very clearly during the consultation process. So that's more cycleways, more cycle paths, more greenways, that sort of thing. Revitalising Sligo's town centres, the regeneration of the town centres, improving the public realm and addressing that high commercial vacancy rate, which is very important. And when you look to improve the public realm, it's all about being inclusive and making it accessible to everybody. The climate change, so focusing, preparing and acting on the challenges of climate change. So as mentioned, it will have a significant impact on Sligo, and Sligo really needs to prepare now, including shifting away to more sustainable transport, increasing renewable energy use, and increasing recycling and kind of embracing that circular economy. On the community's needs are broad and wide-ranging. It actually touches a lot on what we've mentioned there. So the need for housing, the need for more job opportunities and good career prospects, transport, particularly public transport when it comes to rural areas. So these are all important things for the community as well, but they're also very broad and far-reaching. So it's also access to healthcare, access to childcare, and obviously education and training as well. Then on smart Sligo, so Sligo does have an ambition to be a smart and green county, but for it to become a smart county, we really have to define and measure what that means for Sligo. So what does it mean to be smart, and how are we going to measure progress towards achieving that goal? So then if we looked at the revised guiding principles, so these are for a smart and innovative Sligo that drives sustainable economic growth, employment and development. A green and sustainable Sligo that proactively addresses climate change and protects its environment. An equitable and inclusive Sligo that enables and encourages public participation and supports its people. And a vibrant and prosperous Sligo that strengthens its towns and villages and celebrates its culture, heritage and the arts. So these areas of our guiding principles underpin 4 key areas of ambition. And that is growing Sligo into its role as a regional growth centre and increasing employment across the county. Positioning Sligo to the forefront of smart digital transformation, positioning Sligo as an exemplar region in climate action in the context of the Sustainable Development Goals, and improving the living conditions and health of the people of Sligo and supporting its vibrant communities. This all feeds into the revised draft vision itself, which has become more focused following the feedback that we received during the consultation. So our vision now for Sligo is for a smart, sustainable and socially inclusive Sligo, one that cherishes its vibrant communities, protects and celebrates its unique environment and rich culture, and is a champion of innovative growth and development. Then looking at the revised high-level goals. So goal 1, and I should say before I start that the specific bullet points underneath are not specific actions or anything like that. They're just potential areas that could be addressed by the objectives and actions as we move forward. So goal 1, Sligo will be a key regional growth centre that drives sustainable economic activity and employment throughout the region and increases its population across the county. And how could this be achieved, or what does this mean? This means potentially looking to increase sustainable employment, support existing businesses and attract new investment, fostering an innovative and entrepreneurial environment. So, looking to increase that number of EI supported companies across the county, addressing the housing crisis and that high commercial vacancy rate, and then capitalising on Sligo's educational strengths, both for the community and to ensure that the private sector has the talent that it needs. Goal 2, Sligo will become a smart region and a leader in the utilisation of smart technology through partnerships with educational and commercial third parties. This can mean, building on the digital strategy, which is already in place, and defining what being smart means for Sligo, developing a smart Sligo programme, and becoming a pilot region for new smart technologies, and then using smart initiatives and concepts to solve local problems. So one of the things that came out of the consultation process was potentially developing an app to highlight to the community areas that are at risk from radiant gas. Goal 3, Sligo will be a proactive county in the fight against climate change and a model of best practice in climate action. Sustainability is central to all areas of life. So this could mean increasing community and business participation in sustainable initiatives, upgrading and expanding existing walkways, greenways, and cycle paths. So that's that, active and sustainable infrastructure. Increasing the local production, supply, and use of green and alternative sources of energy, and supporting initiatives around rewilding and protecting Sligo's natural habitats. Goal 4, Sligo will be an inclusive, healthy, and equitable society that supports its vibrant communities. This is all about ensuring that all the community has access to services related to health, education, employment, childcare, housing and transport, as we identified in the needs analysis. Continuing initiatives to reduce poverty and isolation, because we know that deprivation has increased in recent years. And then supporting initiatives to ensure Sligo is inclusive and accessible, including for minority groups, the elderly, and those with disabilities. Goal 5, Sligo will celebrate its rich cultural heritage and realise its tourism potential. This potentially means continuing to promote Sligo as one of Ireland's premier tourism destinations on the Wild Atlantic Way, increasing collaboration across the tourism sector in Sligo, and again, that's something that came up through the consultation process. It was a recurring theme. Continuing to work with Sligo's Neolithic Landscape Group for UNESCO World Heritage status for the Sligo Neolithic Passage Tombs. So that's a very specific point. And then ensuring conservation plans are in place to protect that rich natural heritage and natural landscape. And finally, goal 6, a collaborative and innovative Sligo. So this is all about ensuring that collaboration is at the heart of Sligo's development, and maybe working at a regional and national level to address infrastructure deficits where they exist, building on collaborative relationships with neighbouring and cross-border counties such as Leitrim, Mayo, Donegal, Roscommon and Fermanagh, and then developing initiatives to support greater collaboration and communication between the council, the private sector, the community, and other key stakeholders. So just a bit of a progress recap on what's done and what's left to do in the next steps. So what's done, the baseline analysis has been completed. We then developed that draft socio-economic statement. It was then went to public consultation. Following the public consultation, it was subsequently revised and expanded to include a policy review, the expanded needs analysis, and the updated socio-economic profile. What's in progress? At a high level, we started the collaborative development of objectives and actions, identification of the owners, and then all of this is feeding into the development of the draft Sligo 2030 plan itself. The next steps are to continue that collaborative development of the objectives and actions, and then identify and get agreement from the specific owners to really drive forward, the Sligo 2030 plan, and ensure that people feel ownership of it. That is it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. I suppose a whistle-stop tour of what's good and what's needed in Sligo town and county. I just have I see there's a couple of hands up as well. I don't know if somebody wants to come in there first. I just want to ask a couple of questions. I suppose the $1 million question is, and I'm sure this is what the consultation is all about, but where can you see how we can promote those strengths in order to create more jobs and attract foreign direct investment and homegrown companies? Like, what do we have to do? And I suppose like 2030 is a long time away as well. We need to have, I suppose, and I'm sure you have as well, a lot of short-term goals as well as medium and long-term, because, as you said, with the brain drain, and like we have a very educated, or I suppose we've an awful lot of highly educated graduates, and if we have the graduates, and I know before from different reports that we've heard that that companies come to regions where the graduates are. So how can we make that possible for, instead of our graduates leaving to look for these jobs, that we get these companies, I suppose, to realise, I'm sure a lot of them do realise, that we have the graduates. And I have to say, with the new university in Sligo, like I know with being very familiar with an awful lot of the courses there, like they tailor make courses to suit the needs of companies. So they're very, very I suppose they're very resilient, and they're very creative, and they're very fast on the ground, and seeing and recognising what are the needs out there, and they can modify and change and adapt traditional courses to suit those needs. So it's not like we're not able to. We have those graduates, but how can we further attract those companies here, and to let them know that we actually do have the graduates, and we keep our graduates here as well. The other one, I suppose, the needs analysis, the housing and job creation is huge, and developing our homegrown enterprises. It's good to see throughout the emphasis on cycleways and greenways, and they will help regenerate town centres. And I like that it's mentioned there as well, the building collaboration with neighbouring and cross-border counties, and we're doing that at present in relation to our greenways project. So that's something, I suppose, that's in train, excuse the pun, at the minute, and like that's something that's there, and we can just we continue working on that. So we know that will happen, and that will bring employment, and that will bring in tourism, and that definitely will help promote homegrown companies and people to start their own businesses. So there's a lot to be positive there. It is just, it's horrible to see the amount of the lack of growth in population over the last few years. That's hard to listen to and hard to take. And the fact that, again, that we have the graduates and they're leaving when we should be really working extra hard to keep them. But thanks for that. I'm looking forward to hearing more information on it. Thank you. Now I see, just see a hand there. Who's that there now? Sorry, it's just hard to see.
Councillor Healy.
Oh, Councillor Healy. Sorry, your initials aren't up there. Yes, Councillor Healy.
Good morning to you all. James and David, thanks very much for your presentation. Very interesting to see the facts and the figures on it. And as I says, it goes through your population, your education, your infrastructure. I don't see health in it. I'm just wondering in relation to health, because if you see 16% of people are over 65, but also you quoted there that there's 28% of people living alone. Just these people that's living alone, what size of a house are they in? I'm just querying the fact that I know myself that we have a lot of people that's living in houses that their families have moved away and the houses are very big. And I'm just wondering, is there an opportunity here where we have these houses across the country where we might be able to work it, that we might be able to move these, give these people an opportunity to downsize? And that also in relation to, you're right in what you're saying, Sligo is a regional growth. You won't find 2030 coming down the line very fast on top of us. and it's most important that we achieve our goals. The greenways is an important one, especially the cross-border one. I think that has a major benefit of tying us in with other communities, and also breaking down that barrier there of north and south, which is most important. The commercial rates, I think the council have led out on that now, which mean on the vacant levies, and I think that we'll see an improvement in that hopefully over the years. I'm just wondering how is Sligo going to tie in with the Western Seaboard and the rest of Limerick, Galway, and places like that. One of the things that's very interesting, and I work with the Office of Public Works myself, is the Carramore Tombs, which means that's second to none. What we have there, no one else has that. We should be using that to our full potential on the tourist ends of it. So, as I says, it's very positive. Just as I says, fair play to you for the report and all the people that you've tied in on it. But I think we have a lot of work to do in relation to, as I says, you put it there in the infrastructure end of it. We've seen major works done on the N4, which will be a benefit to us. We're still looking for works on the N17, the N59, and the N16 to tie us in all these routes coming into the Sligo. And then look at it as well as that. We need a good connection to Knock Airport, open up and the rail service. We need a faster train going from Sligo to Dublin, which is most important. We also need a link coming from Longford back into Sligo, which would be an important link. If we had a daily service running there, that would tie us in with all them towns coming in, which would mean there'd be more people coming to Sligo, which would put us in a better position. I see over in Ballina, if you look at Coca-Cola, one of the reasons that they moved to Ballina was because of the rail service that they had over there, and they were able to use that freight service. Is that something that we should be looking at? Sligo as a hub for the freight service for the Northwest. Thank you.
Councillor Fox.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, members, and thank you, James and David, for a great presentation, and to everyone that was involved in the creation of that report here in Sligo County Council. That we liaised in various meetings, and there was a lot of work. I'm aware of all the work that went into it, and it's a credit to you all, the detail of it, and it's important for Sligo that we are fully aware of what's going on in the statistics. I think Sligo has an awful lot to offer. Now with the new Atlantic University, it's going to promote Sligo as being a very an attractive place to live, work, and invest. And there's a lot of work to be done there's a lot of work to be done there, and there's a huge opportunity for Sligo there. So there's a huge issue of the chronic short of housing, and I think out here in the new year, I intend to be shouting about large-scale developments. I think there should be more emphasis on large-scale developments. I think it's a good angle to address the chronic shortage of housing here in County Sligo. And I know that the Fine Gael Parliamentary Party are working hard on nationwide in addressing that issue. And I'm engaging with my party colleagues on a regular basis on that. So hopefully out here in the new year, we'll be able to discuss and debate that very important issue, and hopefully we can address the shortage of housing in Sligo. Well done to all involved, and thank you for the opportunity.
Councillor Garoy.
Thank you, Cahir. Look, I took a few notes there during the thing, and I suppose just as Councillor Fox has raised, the 139 houses up to 468, that is going to be crucial. You're not going to attract industry if you don't have a place for the employees to work, to live. I'd be interested the figures. Obviously, we've discussed on many occasions here the figures about the vacant commercial properties, and sometimes the sources of these are coming from a few different sources, and they vary. And the same with the vacant domestic dwellings. I don't want to say houses because there's obviously apartments and things like that as well. There seems to be a few different sources. There's the geo directory, which is handled by UnPOS. Then there's the census that is coming up with a conflicting set of figures. It's very hard to measure where you're going to be in 9 years' time if you don't know where you are at the moment, because these figures are definitely, we have a major issue, and our Cathaoirleach here would definitely agree with me on this. But, you know, just to give an example of the road that we both live on, there are nearly as many holiday homes as there are full-time homes. And when we have a housing shortage in our county, we need to be guided to find ways that we can direct our plans, etc., to try and stymie this a little bit. We welcome these people to come as often as they can to our area, but when you have houses that are lying empty for maybe 8 to 10 months of the year in areas, and it's widespread throughout this beautiful county because of its popularity. Definitely the 6 goals are very important to follow through on them all. I suppose the one that got me was the smart region, and I suppose really smart isn't just about technology. Smart is about a lot of other things as well. We all need to be smart in everything we do, and it's just you know, the 3 or 4 lines in your presentation seem to go towards the technology side more than anything else. And smart is not just about technology. We need to look at smart in a different way. If this is to be a smart county, it's not just people looking at screens. You know, there was talk about health there recently, and you know, I was recently at something which said that, you know, doctors used to look at their patients and now they look at their screens. And, you know, we don't want to be doing that because it's not a good way to go. We need to be more proactive about it. And finally, David, to apologise to yourself that for some reason your emails were diverted into my junk. There was 5 emails came in from you there at the end of November, and they all went into my junk folder, and I just was too late for me to plan for the workshops by the time they came about. So I apologise for that. My system had you blocked out, but you can imagine we get so much junk from everybody. So I'll apologise for that to you now. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wants to come in? Okay, David, I'll just get you maybe and James to answer those questions. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Chair. Yeah, so to answer the first question on what can Sligo do to attract more businesses and to create that environment for the homegrown companies to kind of flourish, well, I guess the first thing or the most important thing to note is that it kind of has to be a whole system approach, for want of a better term. So yes, it'll obviously the council has a key role to play, but it'll also be working with very closely with the local enterprise office, IDA, Enterprise Ireland, and the Technological University, just to ensure that, you know, we know what companies, say for instance IDA, are targeting to bring to Sligo. If it's to do with, for instance, I know some people have been chatting about wind power off the west coast. We know it's a more long-term opportunity for Sligo, probably a bit further down the line than the 2030 plan will go, but an important element of attracting potential business in that kind of green economy will be ensuring that the regulatory framework is in place, so that people know that the policy is there, so that the business environment is conducive to attracting investment, and also to ensure that the specific supports again around you know, homegrown companies, that the supports are available. And from the consultation findings, I think one of the key things that came out of one of the questions was, are you aware of supports available to help you do business, or something along those lines? And 50% of people or businesses surveyed said yes, and 50% said no. So there is an awareness raising piece there as well. But yeah, no, it has to be a whole system approach. So working with, as I said, the state agencies, the private sector, and academia, just to ensure that there is that conducive business environment. Just on the one of the councillors there asked in relation to health. Yeah, no, I didn't actually specifically mention it in the presentation there, so it was a bit of an oversight on my part. But in the report itself, there is a very large section dealing with health, and it includes information on the various illnesses within the county, as well as addiction and mental health and things like that. So we do have that covered. And then in relation to the smart technology, again, completely agree. I know there is potentially a bit of a focus on sorry, not the smart technology, but on the Sligo being smart, that there is a bit of a focus there in the presentation maybe towards technology, but no, I would completely agree that it is a lot more about smart concepts. Maybe one of the things put forward was the idea of adapting the 15-minute city for Sligo, so maybe adapting it to 15-minute county, something like that. But there is obviously concepts there that can be brought in, but it's also not just about technology and things like that. You know, people would say that the active and sustainable infrastructure also feeds into that idea of being a smart place. So, you know, those greenways, those cycleways, all feed into that. And then when it comes to planning, ensuring that new housing and accommodation and residential places are close to, you know, the services and amenities that they need. So ensuring that, you know, in that way, it's a smart place because people might not need to travel by car. So in turn, you're providing for the community, but at the same time, you're also reducing emissions. So there is that whole idea of doing everything a little bit smarter. And as mentioned, yeah, it's not just about smart technology. James, do you have anything you want to add in there?
Yeah, no, I echo all those points. All makes sense. I think I'll just say in that first point around sort of trying to keep graduates in Sligo, having sort of put the effort in to train them and to get them a good education. You want to contribute to the county on an ongoing basis. I mean, part of that is, as David said, it's creating those employment opportunities, but it's also linked back to that point made by councillors around housing and giving them somewhere to live. And it also comes back to, again, that's kind of the whole system approach that Dave mentioned. It's about sort of making the county a vibrant and attractive place to live as well. So it's all you know, you give them employment opportunities, you give them places to live, and you can make it a fun place, an exciting place, vibrant place to live. So it all comes together. On greenways, I think that linkage with surrounding counties. And I've done a fair amount of work in the past on greenways, and it's having that strategic plan in place in partnership with other county councils and with Fulshire Island and funding agencies. But it's about sort of having that plan, having a strategic direction in place, and then working towards that, and recognizing that it will take time, and it's putting a line on a map is the least effective way of doing it. It's about engaging with the landowners on sort of multiple different options, and then developing that and trying to identify the sort of a compromise between the path of least resistance and the path of optimum benefit for the area. But I mean, the points made on the importance of the rail service, absolutely take those on board, and we have reference to those, and we'll have reference to those in the actions and objectives in the plan. And then absolutely the importance of creating the opportunities for large housing development is also very important as well. And around the sort of smart, to echo David's points on that, on the smart technology, we've absolutely included, we've considered smart technology and been working with Jaspers and the European Investment Bank, looking at how smart can be used. It's not necessarily just about technology, it's about looking at how that can benefit the whole county.
And just to add, I know there was a question on the commercial vacancy rate on the sources. So the source for that specific statistic that's included in the presentation is the Geo Directory. But we have been, talking to Sligo Business Improvement District as well, and obviously for the town, there's a slightly different commercial vacancy rate, and I think that the commercial vacancy rate that they identified through the town health check was 18.2%. So 19.9 was for the county, 18.2% for the town. Obviously the 19.9 is from Geo Directory, the town's 18.2 is from the town health check. But either way, obviously we can see that it's still far too high, and a lot higher than a lot of the surrounding counties. And on top of that, it's consistently been high now for a number of years. So Definitely, one of the things I think that needs to be done across the country as well is really to figure out to standardize, because as you say, there are a lot of different approaches to measuring commercial vacancy rate, and it's not a Sligo specific problem. But we do know, looking at the geodirectory or the town health check, that the commercial vacancy rate is far too high at the moment, and something that really needs to be addressed as part of this plan. Thanks very much.
Thank you. I see Dorothy's hand. Can you come in there, Dorothy?
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. Thank you. In the first instance, thank you to David and to James for the presentation. And as you can see, that there's quite a lot of information in it, and everybody has got a copy now of the draft baseline data. And obviously it does identify that Sligo, and I think Councillor Fox identified that we have a lot to offer, but we also have a lot of work to do. Just maybe to kind of say that the LECP is a statutory plan, is the overarching community and economic vision for the county. And it is a collaborative document, so it's not just for Sligo County Council or the drivers, and are very much the, I suppose, the wherewithal, or will provide the wherewithal as to how it's going to be prepared and implemented. But it has to be done in collaboration with all of the other agencies that we have been working with over the last number of years. In relation to the socio-economic data, that is part of the process, the initial process that we've now put in place. And we are now working and moving to work on, I suppose, the actual content of the plan itself. And maybe just to emphasise that there will be a big focus on the whole smart and the green area within the context and within the body of the Sligo 2030 strategy. And that's where we see that the future job opportunities between now and 2030 and beyond will probably come from within that whole digital transformation area and the climate action area. And Sligo wants to be at the forefront of that. And that's why I suppose we're certainly giving a lot of emphasis to the whole smart and green area. And anyway, I suppose, look, we have a lot of work to do, and we will be back to the council at a future date when we have the draft strategy ready for consideration and for adoption by the council. But it is a collaborative document, and the only way that the goals and the high-level vision will be implemented is through collaboration with other agencies and with communities as well. So thank you very much for the opportunity to present this part of the process today to the SPC, or to the municipal district. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks to everybody for your input, and thanks to David and James for that, and Dorothy for the sum up there. And we look forward to the draft strategy. Have you got a timeline for that yet, or a date for it?
We haven't got a date, but we are looking at the first quarter of 2022.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Oh, sorry, Margaret wanted to get in there.
Thank you.
Yes,
all I want to say was to thank the members as well there for all those valuable contributions and commentary in relation to the various key aspects as we're moving forward. And just to chair that if we could get a proposal and a seconder, please, we'd appreciate that.
Yeah, I can propose it.
Just can I ask one more question? Sorry. Can I just ask one more question? It's just in relation to broadband. I didn't hear anything about broadband. I suppose if we're looking at small businesses and small little enterprises to be open around the area, what was the feedback regarding broadband across the county? Thank you.
Do you want to take that, James?
Okay.
Or Dorothy?
Oh, I see I have my hand. No, I just think in relation to broadband, I think there is an acknowledgement that while broadband certainly isn't, and the National Broadband Plan hasn't been fully rolled out, but I think that there has been a significant improvement perhaps in the broadband infrastructure. And I think there is an acknowledgement of that. However, it's certainly in certain areas, particularly as you say, Councillor Healy, the small towns and villages for small businesses and all of that, there is a way to go. But it didn't feature as one of the, it didn't feature really as a need. I suppose housing and I suppose the job opportunities and being able to create jobs and to be able to particularly create jobs within the Indigenous sector kind of were highlighted a bit more. But obviously broadband will be the vehicle how that and a broadband infrastructure and a resilient broadband infrastructure will be one of the ways that that will be achieved. But it hadn't been highlighted as a significant drawback. I suppose that's maybe all I can say about it.
Was it one of the things that was put down, or it wasn't one of the things that was mentioned? Was there something that was put into your report when you were carrying it out in relation to broadband across the county and the effects of it? Because, as I say, for any small little business to open up in any part of the country, out in Inniscrone, or we'll say in Colooney, or even North Sligo, that mean if we have them broadband in them areas, it's going to limit them setting up a business in a small little town or a little village. So I was just wondering, and as I say, since COVID came in, it's come more to the fold that you need broadband in these areas. So that was one of the things that says, just mean broadband now is part of your infrastructure. So I was just wondering. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. Okay.
Am I going to hear from David or James on that?
David, do you want to say anything on that?
Yep. Yeah. So to answer your question, yeah, no, it is in the report. There's a section on broadband infrastructure throughout the county, and as you rightly say, it is part of the infrastructure, and it's about creating. It contributes directly to creating that what's the word I'm looking for? That good business environment, to allow as well as attracting FDI investment and new investment to the county. It's also obviously the broadband infrastructure is very important for developing those homegrown Indigenous companies as well. So yeah, no, I take your point, and yeah, it is something that, as Dorothy said, didn't come up hugely during the consultation process, but it was mentioned a few times, and there's a section within the report itself covering the National Broadband Plan and the plans for Sligo moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for that. Okay, so I suppose just to sum up that, at least now we'll have a draft strategy and a plan, so that I think this is probably the biggest body of work that has been carried out in a lot of years in Sligo, and it's, I suppose you don't know what you need until you discover and find out what you need. So at least with this, hopefully it'll be a very useful document, so that when the funding is being made available, that we can go to the different departments as well and say, well, look, this is what we need this funding, and this is what we're going to do with it, and that there'll be a knock-on effect then on everything else and with job creation. So it's very welcome. It's a massive piece of work, and it is time consuming, and I'd say some people probably think, well, what's the point? But ultimately, when it is finished, I think it would be very useful for us going to departments and drawing down funding, because we'll be able to show them what our specific needs are. So thanks very much for that. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks very much.
Okay. Now,
Chair, just to get a seconder, please, if you don't mind. I know you did propose.
Yeah, Councillor Fox seconded.
Oh, excellent. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on now to item number 5, the adoption of the draft multi-annual restoration improvement programme for 2022 to 2024.
Members have been circulated with the draft programme, which we're required to submit to the department, covering a 3-year period, and it's based on the funding that's been allocated to us for the current year. So we've drafted the programme. It is there is of course a degree of flexibility within the programme, and also the programme is of course dependent on the funding that we are ultimately allocated. I know since the report was issued, I know Councillor Healy had come in with a query as to a particular road, and we can look at that in the new year. So the report or the proposed multi-annual restoration improvement programme for Sligo Drumcliff is for the consideration of the members, and we request that it might be adopted by the council. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Gilroy.
Yeah, look, I have no problem proposing it, but I just think maybe going forward it should be sent out a little bit sooner to us. It was Friday evening when this was circulated to us all. There are a couple of little bits on it and things like that you kind of worry where they're starting and where they're stopping. I suppose the consistent thing of doing 3 visits or 2 visits to the same road, the public often seem to think, why could you not do the whole road maybe in the one go, because you're coming and going to it over a prolonged period of time. And the most vital thing of all is that when the roads are done, that they're finished. There seems to be a feeling out there this year that the contractor, the tail was wagging the dog rather than the other way around. So those things will be very important as we go through this, but I have no problem. I'll propose it. Thank you.
Councillor Fox.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, yeah. Again, just to concur with what Councillor Gilroy said and to agree with them, I suppose we're fully aware of the roads that are being worked on. It's good to see that the list is being worked on. Many of the roads are in a very bad state at the moment. Just to bring up, there's a big issue this year on the local roads with melting tar, in the heat. Is there anything that can be done about using, I suppose, whatever is causing the tar to melt so quickly on certain stretches of the road? It doesn't happen on all of the roads, and I was just wondering if that could be addressed when they're being tarred, when the work has been done. And the issue of the verges then outside homes as well is a big issue. It's great to see the roads being done, but the entrances into houses cause a lot of problems for people, especially people with special needs and that trying to get in and out their homes. If they could be dealt with while the road is being tarred all at once, I don't know whether it's possible to do that, but it is a big issue, and I think it's something that needs to be addressed for people, especially in rural areas. People trying to get in and out their homes, it can be difficult for them. Elderly people in that. So I welcome the report. There are lots of I suppose there are many more roads that need to be done, but it's good to see it being done, and there's a lot more to do, and I'd support the motion, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And Councillor Healy.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank Tom and Declan, Connor and all the outdoor staff for all the great work they've done. In fairness to them, they're limited the amount of funding we get down from the department. So I suppose it's up to us as councillors and in government or out of government that we're putting more pressure on the government to make sure that we get more funding down here to help to make sure that we get these roads and done. I suppose in living in a rural area, as we all know, our footpaths as well as roads is our footpaths as well as everything else. So that means we're limited to what we have in rural areas. That means this is a major a road or out in the rural areas is a major investment because it gets us from A to B. And as Councillor Gilroy rightly says, that means we see roads starting at one end and not finishing at the other end. And look, I know that you're down to resources. You're trying to manage and do everything you can. Just on the report, I see there the R287, it's down in 2023. That's down there at the junction at Crossboy. I was just wondering, is there any chance that we could look at bringing that forward? I had a lot of calls from people in relation to that, the surface on that road, how slippy it is, but also there's lack of lining on that road. Now, I know there was in fairness to Conor McCann, he did great work there working with a number of farmers in the area to address water on that road, which was badly needed. But if we could we move that closer to 2022, that would be appreciated. But as I says, look, we're limited what funding we have for roads. You're doing your best and your outdoor staff, and I want to thank you for all the work you've done. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to welcome the report as well, and I suppose there are some roads I see on the 2023 and 24 list that I was hoping to see on the 2022 for next year. I know there's just one in particular that I want to discuss later with yourselves, and I'd just like to, I suppose, pay credit as well with the very difficult 2 years now at this stage, the work that has been done on the roads under difficult circumstances between COVID, with teams of people being out with COVID and people being restricted in that. So just to acknowledge the work, the engineers on the ground and the staff, and hopefully we'll be able to move on these quickly in the new year. Thank you. Thanks, Tom.
Ciara, thank you. And look, I suppose there's nothing really new in the issues that are being raised. Again, I'll make the point, there is a degree of flexibility in this. I mean, if the members in the Drumcliff Municipal District agree that a road has to be prioritised and brought forward, you know, within the constraints of whatever funding is available to us, we'd always seek to do that. So, you know, that's a matter for yourselves to engage with Declan and the particular area engineer. I take Councillor Kilroy's comment about perhaps sending the reports out sooner. The question in relation to, you know, doing part of a road and doing another part of a road, when you're 25 years getting round to do a road, the reality is it's probably better from everyone's point of view that we're seeing more often on a road than 25 years. So, you know, if members decide they want to prioritise a road, a full road, that's the members' decision. But we try and work with yourselves to, you know, we have an ambition to do a road, but it's going to take time to do it all. And that's just the particular challenges there are in relation to spreading what's still, you know, modest funding across what is a rural county at the end of the day. Councillor Fox made reference there to the Melton Tower. I suppose we were just caught, you know, it's not something that happens every year. But I'll take the comment back to Tom and the engineering team. In relation to verges, Councillor Fox, I suppose we're becoming victims of what we've probably started to do in recent years. Heretofore, there was a very clear policy there that we didn't do verges at all, and that it was up to the councillors, if they came to us in terms of councillors' proposals, to allocate funding for, you know, to get a verge done or whatever. And in many cases, the obligation was on the householder to prepare the area in front in advance of any works being undertaken. We've tried to show a degree of flexibility in recent years, and, you know, we've probably agreed to carry out some works that not in other locations. So perhaps we need to be a wee bit more strict in what we agree to and what we don't agree to. But you know, at the end of the day, whatever piece of work has to be done has to be paid for, and it's coming out of a budget somewhere. And if we don't provide for it in terms of an estimate for a job, well, then it's not going to be done. So, you know, we all need to look at how we perhaps approach that, and, you know, good communication in advance with the area engineer, and ensuring that in some way, shape or form that funding is allocated to get a verge or a roadside leading into a house done, whether it's done through the job or whether it's done through councillor proposals or whatever, is the best way forward. Councillor Healy asked about the R287, and the Caherlock made reference to other roads that are further out in the planned works. Again, if we get more funding, we can look at bringing particular roads forward. And again, if the members in the area agree that a particular road needs to be prioritised, well, then we work with yourselves to see that that's done. It may, of course, be at the cost of another road that's currently in the programme, but, you know, we work with yourselves to agree what's the best case scenario for allocating, as what I still say is still scarce resources, badly needed, and we could do it more. But you know, I'm sure we'll work together in the 3 years of this programme ahead to get as much done as possible. Thanks, Carol.
Thank you. So, Councillor Gilroy, you're proposing, and Councillor Fox will second that. Thank you. Thanks for that report. Okay, we'll move on to the motions now. Councillor Healy, motion number 6.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, in relation to this, a number of actions has been happening down there at St. Mary's School I know yourself had a motion in relation to this as well, about pedestrian crossings, but there is a need for a pedestrian crossing. There is an island there, one at Clondare Estate, and the residents there aren't happy with that because kids are getting caught in the middle of that island. What we're looking for is a pedestrian crossing there, and also a pedestrian crossing on the coming in from the Collooney end of it. There is a pedestrian crossing there at the bridge, and I've raised it on a number of occasions. It's serving no purpose at all. And I think now, as I says, we'll see that we've been writing to TII in relation to this works that's happening in Ballysadare on pedestrians over the last 2.5 years. The survey has been carried out there on a pedestrian crossing in the centre of the town as well. And that is, we're still waiting for that. So I think we need to be coming out a lot stronger now on TII and say that they have to come and start putting in this work in these areas. And there's definitely need for a survey there. There's a couple of accidents that happened there, and the girls have the reports of these accidents that happened around St. Mary's School. And I think that we need to have look serious at that. I don't know, is it a lining issue or the way people are parking down there outside the school? So I'm asking the council now to have a serious look at this and to come back with a report for our next meeting as well on this. Thank you.
Councillor Wright.
Yeah, again, look, I've had consultation with Conor on this as well, and you know, out there around the school, there's a lot of issues. The principal has been on to me and some of the parents. It's something we look at. It's like any school or any area where children are moving about. Safety has to be our #1 priority, and I think some work has been done. But I suppose just to keep the foot on the throttle if we can to keep it going. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'd also like to support the motion, and also just to raise as well, it's just on the way into the primary school there in Ballysadare, the signage is actually very poor in that you wouldn't, and I go in there quite a lot, but you wouldn't actually you wouldn't see the sign. You have to, even I still have to look because it's like a hidden entrance as well. There's no marking on the road, you know, into the primary school, just up from the secondary school. It's just very hard. So I think access there, or notice of access there of more cars entering and exiting that road there. I think it'd be no harm just to raise that. Thank you.
Sorry, can I apologise? It was actually the primary school I was talking about, so that was an error on my behalf. Okay. Apologies for that.
Cathaoirleach, Sligo County Council will shortly carry out a speed survey on the western approach to the junction at St. Mary's School. Regarding the pedestrian crossing in the village, the council have made contact with TII. Any project of this nature is subject to the approval of the TII and the provision of appropriate funding from TII to complete it. In relation to the pedestrian crossing on the R290, the council will review to determine a suitable location. Again, funding for such a scheme will need to be considered. And Cathaoirleach and Councillor Roy will take back the comments in relation to the approach to the primary school to the area engineer. Thanks.
Councillor Gilroy, I'll second that one.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, I just wanted. Sorry, Chair. I just want to come back in on that, on my motion, if that was all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Tom, for the report, but I just want to get the message out there loud and clear that Sligo County Council has done all their work. We had the public consultations in relation to the works that happened, the works to be done on the pedestrian crossing on the main street. The council have done their work. TII needs to step up now with the funding. We have done all the work. This is 2.5 years in the making in relation to the pedestrian crossing in the village itself. I'm delighted to hear that the speed survey is going to be carried out on this road. But can I also stress with Tom that he might bring it back to TII. They seriously need to look at the speed limits as well. The speed limits need to be pushed out past Corona Church. There was a number of submissions made at the last speed thing and they weren't taken on board. Corona Church is part of the village. There was a number of accidents happened out there, and we need to make sure that if the speed service is going to be done, that they also, if they can, do the speed survey further out the road coming into the village, if they have to put down a number of speed surveys on that road. Thank you.
Can I just give you an update? The area engineer says that the sign has already been erected at the entrance to the primary school.
That's great. Thank you. Thanks, Conor. Councillor Gilroy, motion number 7.
Thank you very much. As part of Science Week at the IT Sligo Science Fair, the pupils of 5th and 6th class in Cliffany National School made a model of the village out of recycling materials to highlight the challenges facing not just pupils but other people in their community. They're going for their green flag, the next green flag, between September 21 and April 23 on the theme of travel. They've raised some very good statistics. The person from the green flags provided them with a speed gun, where they went out and they surveyed the speed of traffic through the village, and they found that in the period on the 21st of October, when they carried out the thing, there was 186 vehicles checked. The lowest speed was 29, the highest was 75. And remember, it is a village, so there are people. And 75, there's a lot of hours where you'd pick up someone going well over 75, and I think we've all experienced that. 98 of them were over the speed limit, which is 52.7%. So that's one of the issues, and we did speak at the JPC meeting last week, and Chief Superintendent Glacken has assured us that he's going to push it on a bit with the Go Safe van, maybe to turn Cliffany into the Ballinacaro of the north. They did a travel survey, and among 64 participating students, 44 travelled to school by car and only 20 walk, which, with our aims of getting safe travel to school, we'd be looking for that to change around, at least in the opposite direction. And then they did a walkabout survey in the village, and there was 5 key points made, and I look forward to them coming in here and explaining it to themselves. They're a fine group of individuals who will be the leaders of the future. To be fair, they're well able to make their points. Number 1 was speed. Number 2 was that the green man is only on for 6 seconds on solid green on the crossing. Now, I know this has come up in Grange before at the crossing there, and I know it's still a long time on the flashing green before it goes green for the traffic, but I suppose parents only feel safe to let children cross when it's on solid green. There's no footpath on the road to Mullaghmore, and I think we might try and get that tied in with one of the schemes, because I see that Mullaghmore is on our road scheme that we just adopted, and that stretch from Cliffany down as far as the corner at Seamus Farrell's there is on the scheme. I don't think we're ever going to get a footpath from Cliffany to Mullaghmore in one go. So if we start it and do the first stage, maybe we could come back 5 years later and do the next stage, and eventually we'll end up with a safe access from Cliffany to Mullaghmore. Be looking at Damien Kelly there. He probably struggled coming home from Mullaghmore a few nights, but there's a blind spot on the entrance to Seaview Park. I never had trouble getting home from Mullaghmore. Thomas Kefeather always got me home safe. So there's a blind spot at the entrance to Seaview Park, which they identified, and it was amazing. Even the teachers and that said they didn't see it until the children pointed it out to them, that there's an issue with that. And cars parked on the footpath, and I'd like to thank Declan Noon and Damien Henry, who came down and visited the area with us. Councillor Fox and myself were present, and people were asking for yellow boxes to be put on the footpath to stop people parking in certain areas, and Declan kind of pointed out to them that they shouldn't be parking on the footpaths anyway. But it's a lack of an alternative is really the reason why people park on the footpath in Cliffany, and it's something that can be done. But anyway, the children have done this. I'd like to see them invited in here. We put it to if we can put it to the corporate policy group to bring them in either into the chamber here or downstairs, depending on what's COVID suitable in the new year. I think it'd be nice for them to see that we're taking an interest in what they're doing. They've done an excellent piece of work, so thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Councillor Gilroy, and to second the motion, I think it's probably one of the issues that I've been raising since 2014. It's very frustrating at this stage. I know that there is funding coming for footpaths and improved works there. So I'm hoping that that will actually address a lot of the safety concerns there as well. Speed is always an issue, and as was stated at the JPC, that because it's on a national primary road, it's very, very hard to regulate it. But I would like to commend the children on this work and for engaging in local issues, and they have to be encouraged, and they'd be very welcome, I suppose, depending on COVID restrictions and that, for having people back in the building as well. But I'm sure when the restrictions lift another bit, that they'd be very welcome, and we'd love to see them. So yeah, I suppose just to keep pushing on this as well. It's a huge issue. It's a very busy village, and even when we were out there looking with Declan Noon on the when we were talking about the location for bus shelters, we couldn't hear ourselves talking. That the volume of traffic and the amount of lorries and the speed of the lorries that we're going through. So it was actually very noticeable. I think it's only when you stand there on the footpath that you see and you realise how fast the traffic is going through. So I suppose any good news at this stage would be very welcome.
Thank you, Catherine. If it's agreed by the members, we'll refer it to the Corporate Policy Group for their consideration.
Thank you.
Hand up there.
Please, Councillor Healy.
Yes, thanks very much. And listen, fair play to the kids. And it's important that we do get the views of the kids in the national school. I've done the same with myself in Ballantor, and it's important. Hopefully these kids might be working in the roads department in the near future. But having met with the principal down there and a number of the residents and the parents bringing kids to school, there is a serious thing there. But what we need to be doing here as well, a lot of these lorries and cars and that drives through our villages, they don't see a village. We need to increase and show that the identity of a village coming into it. We see that we have the same problem up at Seaview at the moment, where people just drive through it, just see a number of houses. They don't know that there's a school there and anything like that. And I suppose the best thing about this survey that was carried out with the children now are well aware of the speed of the cars that's coming through, and they're well aware now of the dangers that's in areas. So I think that it's most important that we do hear from them, and it's important, and well done to the pupils, and I'm looking forward to seeing them coming in to give us their presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Apologies, Councillor.
Yeah, just briefly, thank you, Chair, and just to support the motion. I look forward to seeing the students of the 5th and 6th class coming into the chamber here. I always say that the kids always, they learn more than we'll ever know. So it was interesting to see or to listen to what they said about Seaview Park. I visit that area quite frequently with work and that. And it was interesting. I never spotted it. So it took a child to spot these things, So it's important we listen to the youth. Fair play to them, to all involved there in the school who are encouraging the pupils to do this. And it's very interesting to listen to the statistics that Councillor Gilroy had there on the speed and that. I think, as Councillor Healy said, we need to have more awareness on that main road, that there is a busy village ahead. A school entrance or that. It's a main route, and we need more of a presence. We need more cautionary signs coming. It's an extremely busy place and an extremely busy, dangerous place there with the school right on the verge of the road. So, yeah, well done to all involved there. Thanks.
Motion number 9, please. Sorry, number 8, please.
Thanks. Thank you. Yes, I suppose Ross's point has the wonderful Patrick Flanagan out there, who in the S6 100-metre backstroke and the S6 400-metre freestyle represented Ireland in the Paralympics in Tokyo last year. But he's no place to access open water swimming in County Sligo. There really isn't a suitable facility for someone with Patrick's type of disability, or people with physical disabilities in general, to get access to swimming. I visited the pool out there with Declan Noon and Damien Henry and Councillor Tom McSharry, and I'm confident that Declan and his team will come up with some sort of a plan. I know the resources are tight and the roads office and that to get a design done up. But I'm confident that something can be done. I just wanted to put it on the record. I know the work is being done, and it's not that I'm saying it hasn't been done. I know they're working on it. So I'd just like to support them and put it on the public record that this facility is needed in Ross's Point. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And yeah, just to support the motion, it's a very important issue. We have a high rate of people with special needs in this county. I think it's high time that we've had the appropriate facilities for people with special needs so they can go and enjoy the great outdoors like everybody else. I think it's a great facility out there in the good weather and indeed in the winter months. People use it on a daily basis. So I think yeah, it should be focused on, and I think funding should be made available. And I think the people with special needs and that would be very appreciative of having that facility upgraded. And thanks for the opportunity to speak on it. Thanks.
Thank you, and just like to support the motion as well. It's very worthwhile.
Sligo County Council will examine this location to determine the feasibility of constructing a safe access for people with disabilities. If deemed feasible, planning, environmental and funding issues will need to be considered. And just on a related matter, and in fairness, Councillor Gilroy has raised this previously, our Disability Access Officer, Anne Carty, has recently conducted a survey on all our beaches in terms of disability access. And she's sort of identified what the issues are and so on, and what the status is and possible ways of addressing that. So it is something that we are continuing to look at. I suppose the big issue, as I've highlighted previously, is they tend to all to be in SACs. There's always planning and environmental issues, but we are looking at this not just in relation to the specific pool bathing near in Ross's Point, but in terms of access to all, as Councillor Fox said, all our beaches. So we're having a look and seeing if we can put a programme together. Thank you, Carla.
Thank you. That's very welcome, Councillor.
And thank you for that report, and that's very welcome. You know, and I suppose a lot of the other beaches, it's probably access only to get onto the beach, because you know, if you get onto the first or second beach in Ross's Point, you still won't get out into the water with a wheelchair. Whereas it could be done with a setup of bars in a proper way at the pool entrance. So that's why that one was selected. But I welcome the comments on the other areas and getting access onto the beaches.
Okay, next item is item number 9, Councillor Gilroy and Councillor Healy.
Yeah. So again, this is about putting this on the agenda again. It's something that I've long held, that the Yates Centre, when you know, it's a flagship that has been identified as something that's needed for Sligo, and I believe it should be in Drumcliff and nowhere else. There's in the region of 200,000 visitors coming to Drumcliff Church at the moment, and trying to divert them to somewhere else it doesn't make sense. We don't have too many things where the centre of them, where the pure natural centre is in our municipal area, but this is one that absolutely belongs in our area. The facilities need to be put there for the visitors to see the constant flow of people all year round. No matter when you go there, there's people in and out around the church, looking at the grave, wandering around looking at the other graves. Maybe they're looking for Yates and just can't find him because it's such a simple headstone. But really, that's where the story is based around. I know the geophysical survey, I think it's out for tender at the moment, and that's to be welcomed. We're a while waiting for it, but I know there are difficulties and there's resource and issues there. But we urgently need this. This is the place it should be. And it's a great opportunity to pull the tourist numbers out into the county, which is what we should do, because once they get out there and see the beauty, they'll know what they need to have everywhere else. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Healy.
Yeah, and thanks to Councillor Gilroy for keeping this on the agenda. I first put this motion down back in 2019. because I want to see a flagship project like this and I think that the only place that this can happen is down beside WB. It's, as I says, the simple fact is you wouldn't have an office for Carramore in Sligo town. You have it out where the facility is, and it's an important part. And what we need to be doing is we need to be broadening out here on flagship projects in different parts of Sligo. And this is a flagship project that's needed for the North Sligo. And I think that if this is developed and brought there, that this can open up North Sligo, and as well as that, we can complement other areas that's in Sligo as well. So, as I says, I think that we should stick fast to this and make sure that this happens in North Sligo. Thank you.
Councillor Fox.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'd be just to support the motion. Look, I tabled a motion on this back in 2020, I think it was. And look, it's. I agree with what's been said by both councillors, Councillor Gilroy and Councillor Healy. I think that the centre should be in Drumcliff. I know it's a controversial issue due to having also, the infrastructure and that to do so, but I think we should focus and attract the appropriate funding to do so. It's an iconic. The Yates name is an iconic name, and Drumcliff and the whole scene there with Lizardale House is iconic internationally, and it should be recognised as being iconic here in Sligo County Council. I think there's a huge opportunity there for tourism, and in the interest of creating job creation. It's an ideal place to bring tour buses, etc. And hopefully after the pandemic that will return again, and we have the scope to do so down there. So it is a huge opportunity, and the Yates name alone is it's renowned throughout the world. People travel from the four corners of the world to see Yates's grave, and I think we should utilise that and we should prosper more from it. I'm involved in the model up there, and you can see the amount of people and the interest that there is in Yates throughout the world, and I think we should make more use of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Just before the director comes in, I'd just like to acknowledge actually the work that has been done by the community group out there at the church, and they have done. They've installed different features there very aesthetically and very subtly, but they are a big advantage there, and the kiosk that's there as well. But that's a lot of work. They did get leader funding and they made a huge application. It is a very sensitive area, and I know that that's probably included in the answer that you're going to give, because I think I think that the space, and I know from previous reports that like just the site and the space, that there's huge issues there, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why it hasn't advanced at this stage. But I'd let Ms. Clark come in on that.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. I don't want to dampen your Christmas, but I think any maybe talk of providing any major, other than what's there already, or any kind of vast improvement maybe to what's already there, and maybe that's the wrong word, in Drumcliff, is probably very premature. And I don't want to say unlikely, because Councillor Gilroy did allude to the fact that a geophysical survey is, we hope to actually tender for that before Christmas, and our Heritage Officer is working on that, and we would hope that that will be completed within the first month or two of 2022, or within the first quarter. And following that, a conservation plan would be required, and that conservation plan is necessary before, Drumcliff is significant, not just for Yates. There's the whole monastic site, and you couldn't even put a spoon in the ground or a fork, never mind a spade or whatever else, because of the significance of the archaeology that's there. So it is maybe any development anyway. I suppose, we're going the right way about it, in the sense that a conservation plan has to be put in place, and the geophysical survey will start that process. So hopefully maybe by this time next year we'll have a better idea as to what could be accommodated on the Drumcliff site. But you're well aware that the application for the Yates World Centre that would have been submitted to Fáilte Ireland, probably 2019 at this stage, was unsuccessful, and that was to be based on Sligo town, because that's obviously where they felt the infrastructure would be there to support it. However, there's no funding stream coming on. There's no funding stream that we're aware of coming on stream or being made available from any source to actually, for us to apply for. So obviously we may have to go back and relook at that whole thing at some point in the future. But I suppose in relation to Drumcliff, we're quite well aware of the visitor numbers. We certainly would like to enhance the facilities there. But I think in terms of maybe any large scale development, like what might have been proposed with the Yates World Centre, would be premature, I suppose, until we know what the conservation plan will tell us. So I suppose that's all I have to say on it at this stage. But at least when we know and have the conservation plan done, we'll be a lot clearer as to what, if any, development can be accommodated on that site, on the whole enclosure, the monastic site enclosure. So we have to wait and see.
Thank you for that report.
Yes, and thanks for the report. I suppose don't feel we're premature. I think it's clearly the view of the 4 members that are here, and I think we could speak for Councillor Walsh as well, in that he would support this if he was here. It's to hear that it's unlikely, and I know that the geophysical study, and I have been talking to Siobhan in my position as chair of the Heritage Forum, and the Heritage Forum have discussed this, and it's permanently on our agenda, and the conservation plan. But there's more to Drumcliff than just the immediate site. And if the Yates World Centre had to be successful, a property would have had to be bought in Sligo town, where they can be quite expensive, whereas property could be available in some of the adjoining areas that might not require a geophysical survey in Drumcliff, and that needs to be looked at. There's more than one way to skin a rabbit, as they say. I suppose I have to laugh when you say about the spoon in the ground, because I spent 3 months back in 1983 on my knees in the bucket and rain with a spoon going through the ground there. But there is part of the site that has been excavated. There is quite a substantial part on the left, and I know it's not the part you want vehicles going through, but there's a substantial car park the other side. People could come through the church grounds and to the part that has been excavated down towards the river there. And I know the report on that. There is so much stuff came out of it. I think that's what people don't realise. That survey, to be fair to Joyce Enright, she did a huge amount of work on it, but unfortunately she found so much stuff, and the team that worked there was a huge group of us. We were on, I don't know, was it a FOSS or an ANCO scheme we were funded on at the time, and it was, there is so much stuff that it will take a team of archaeologists years, and I mean years, to go through the bones that were found. Every day we were finding different bones with which led to another story, everything, but nothing could be complete. And I think when it was taken on, and I'm not going to speak for her, but I think Joyce thought it would be something she could do herself. But it's a job for a number of people, and funding will have to be found for that at some stage in the future. But most of the stuff there is going to be left where it is. The things relating to the monastic site, they're going to be left where it is. So it comes into an engineering perspective then to find a way of developing something over the site that maintains it, and maybe have some sort of a subterranean display of what's beneath the ground. There's lots of different ways. A bit of open thinking is needed on this to get it, because it's something that's badly needed. And I welcome the portable toilet that has been put in the corner of the car park. But you know, a place like that, if you go to Thurlock House, if you go to the Cliffs of Moher, if you go to any of these sort of places, Slieve League, there's toilets. We have to We have to get to the 21st century. People are talking about, we were talking here about Wi-Fi connections and things like that as part of the 2030. Like, if we don't have toilets at our major tourism attractions, and it can be done. It's a challenge. It's a challenge to engineering. I accept that, but it can be done. So thank you for the report. But it'll be back on the agenda again in 6 months. I'm sure someone will be bringing it up again. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Healy, have you your hand up?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Dorothy, for your report. It doesn't dampen us. It only encourages, believe it or not, Dorothy. What you've said is because, as I says, if it doesn't happen one way, it can happen another way. The most important thing is the reason I brought it up in 2019, because I seen it talking to different people and working in the environment that I work in the Office of Public Works. And as I speak to you today, I'm over here in the Caja Fields. And in fact, they're doing work on the major centre here, and they have tourists coming and going, and they're using outside toilets, which they were able to put in cabinets, and they were able to do that. So everything is possible if the will is to do it. That's the most important thing. As it says, moving forward, we will look at, there is alternatives there. The whole idea is to make sure that it's kept in North Sligo. And I think that, and what I would propose is that we, us as in the municipal meetings, us as councillors might come together and have a meeting ourselves when this report comes out, and work a lot closely with yourself, Dorothy, on this, and see what strategy we can come up with, and see is there other proposals that we can come up on to make sure that we can get this flagship project in North Sligo. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, Councillor Walsh isn't here, so we'll move on to any correspondence. Okay, and I suppose just under AOB, I'd like to extend my congratulations to our Niamh Malash team who won our under-20 team who won the county finals. It was a great win, and it was a great day for the club, as they say, because it's been back in the 1970s since a similar competition or trophy has been won for our club. So I have to just pay tribute to the lads and to the team there, and all the coaches and volunteers who have worked with this team since they were young fellas at under 6 and under 8, and Tom, you've been involved with them as well. So it's great to have some silverware back into the club, and particularly because we've had a couple of bad days in the club, and it's great. It gives everyone a lift. It gives the younger kids a lift. It gives the older the guys who played in the last team that won, the grandparents of the children now who are playing. So it's great at this time of year, after a hard year and a hard 2 years for so many, in every way, health wise and sport wise, and just people not being able to get out and about and mix with their communities. It was just a fantastic day. So just to acknowledge that, and also Keelan Kilrahel and the team on winning gold at the European Cross Country yesterday. Massive achievement, seeing as this young fella was told by his doctors after an accident that he would never be able to walk again, and never mind run cross country. So it's just a fantastic story, and no doubt I'm hoping for civic receptions that we'll have Keelan in at some stage, possibly in the future, and I'd say he will go on to do great things. And also to congratulate the Sligo Leitrim soccer, because we have some players from our municipal district, the soccer underage teams who performed really well in Limerick and the Gaynor Cup yesterday. So it's great. It's been a great weekend of football and of sport for everyone. And it's just great to see that through COVID that volunteers and people have still continued, and they haven't given up on children and their parents have still continued to dedicate a lot of their time to sport and to voluntary activity. And that's what's kept so many people going during these difficult times. So just to pay credit to everybody and to congratulate everyone on those wins. Is anybody else?
I'd like to second you in all you've said there. Great day, and I was talking to 2 players from the famous team of 44 years ago last night, and they definitely shared the pride that goes with that. I think Keelan Gilrill is a cousin of Emer Connolly's, I think, and so congratulations to him. I was doing a job for his father there recently, so it's great to see that coming, and all the other things, and maybe to pay tribute to our colleague, the elf in the corner there. He's a bit of an elf on the shelf, Councillor Healy. He's been out with Santa Claus touring the county and bringing smiles to children's faces in the last few days. So to thank himself and the great John Welch, that's playing a very important role in that team as well. So it's a good thank you to them.
Councillor Fox.
Yeah, just briefly, thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to congratulate everyone who was involved. Well done to everybody who was involved with all the sports and the achievements in recent times. Special congratulations to the two Colliery lads that played with the Sligo Leitrim team there, Andrew Callahan and Conor Devaney. Fair play to them. They were played very well. They're in Limerick yesterday. And look, it's great to see sport being maintained during these difficult times, and to see the kids achieving. There's nothing like watching them achieving and participating in sport. It's very important that we continue to support them, and hopefully moving forward out here in the new year, we'll have lots more of this achievements for our kids. Thank you.
Councillor Healy.
Yeah, I just want to agree with everything you says, and as I says, we were down in Grange yesterday evening. There was queer excitement around it, all right. Bree and Santi also seen a lot of the lads at Lang's pub and congratulated them, which was great. It's important if you're underage coming through. That means it looks good for the future of Glasgales into the future. But I also want to welcome the good news that we got from Sligo Rovers that our ladies will also be playing next year league football, which is great. And it just goes to show you how great Sligo Rovers football team is when they look after the young and the old. And it's another addition to see that ladies are getting the recognition that they deserve. And as I says, I'm looking forward to seeing that in the new year. I want to thank Councillor Gilroy for his great work there and inviting us last night down to Cliffney, and we had great fun. And as I says, Santi is very important part. We all have him, and he all came to our houses. So as I says, himself and the elves are working away. But listen, just before I go, I want to mention we had recent storms, and I'm just wondering, Tom, is there any funding coming through? I know that the outdoor staff had to be out working late at night, and are we going to get any resources for that and damage that was done during the storm? Have we put in an application, or will there be something like that? As I says, even last night, the winds were strong again. We were in the yellow zone last night. Now, I don't think there was any damage, but just wondering, have we made an application for, or will we receive any funding during the last storm? Thank you.
Yeah, we actually were out yesterday evening. Surprised by the number of calls we had yesterday evening in terms of trees down. I know there was one down at Milk Harbour and in other parts of the county. In relation to your query, Councillor Healy, in fairness to the department, after a storm, they're normally very prompt in asking the local authorities to make submissions for funding. We'll await it. There's really no point making a submission if funding isn't going to be made available to the local authority sector. However, I have to say, since the national management system for severe weather has been put in place, it's pretty much been part of severe weathers that the local authorities are asked to make submissions. So, look, we're hopeful that maybe we will be requested to make a submission. If we are, we'll be in quick.
Sorry, can I come in?
Yeah,
thank you. Just in saying that, and I know Declan, I see he's on the call here, he would have got an email that the road actually at Milk Harbour, the road into the holiday unit in beside the boatyard is practically washed away. It's been well undermined, a road that's there for 180 years plus. So there is damage. I think it's funny, and I'm not being critical of the weather warning system or anything like that, but this orange warning seemed to have been hit us worse than previous red warnings, which is things can be very localized, and if they hit things just in the wrong way, the damage can be done. So look, it is something that I'd welcome as well if there is any funding there. So thanks.
Thanks, and yeah, thanks, Councillor Healy, for the reminder. I suppose as chair of Sligo Rovers Women's Committee, it's been a long time coming. We've worked very hard, a small committee, for the last few years to get to this stage where Sligo Rovers Women's can now enter the Women's League. It's absolutely fantastic for progression for our girls. The boys have it, and the men have it at senior level. So it's just right that and fitting that there is a progression route there for the girls. So just to pay tribute to the entire Sligo Rovers team, the board and all the lads there as well, and the committees that have worked on this, and the volunteers and coaches that have given their time, and the sponsors over the years. And also just when you're talking about the storms, again, to acknowledge the work of the staff, the outdoor staff in particular, and everyone who was manning the phones and updating social media, absolutely fantastic. And just to pay tribute, I had a few calls to make myself to the lads out on the roads, and it was, nothing was too big of an issue, and it's always done with a heart and a half. I always say that. I know that it's part of somebody's duty if they have to. They have to do it to clear a road, but I think it's the attitude as well. It's that it's no problem. It'll be done as quickly as we get to it. Never a complaint, and I know that the communities are very, very thankful for the work that's been done and keeping people safe, and all the volunteers and everyone that works particularly hard during the storm, and the backroom team as well. And just can we pass on those thanks to all the staff, please? I think it's important that it's acknowledged. So if there's nothing else, just to fix the date for the next meeting. We'll have a lovely romantic day on the 14th of February, Monday the 14th at 10 a.m. So we'll be expecting chocolates on that one. It'd be nice with some flowers. If that's okay for everyone, 10 a.m. And just to wish the staff and the members and everybody a very happy Christmas. Thanks for everything, and thanks for your support, and all the best for 2022. Thank you.